Well, first of all, thank you so much for your presentation. That was a very good timing for me. I certainly also feel the imposter feelings like we all do, and maybe particularly on this topic, because which is kind of considered a relatively new one in our industry, but it so isn't. So thank you from me as well to Maritime SheEO, Sanjam, Birgit, Tenas, everyone, for having me here today and for opening up this really vital conversation. My name is Torild Boe Stokes. I'm a menopause workplace consultant and coach. I used to work many years in the maritime industry, so I started my career in trade winds when I was 27, and then I worked for Stena in London for many years. So little did I know then that I'd be standing here today and talking about female health and particularly menopause in the workplace. So I'm going to cover 3 things today: why menopause awareness matters for every leader and company, what the real-world impact looks like, and how we can move forward from awareness to meaningful action. This is a leadership opportunity, not just a personal issue. So why should you care? Well, you probably, as a leader and as a company, already have mental awareness days. You provide psychological safety for your employees. You have ramps to make safe for your employees as well. So this is another one of those very important psychologically safe spaces we can provide for women at this stage. And it's a really big and important part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion part as well. I'll come back into this. What if 40% of your workforce is silently checking out? This is what happens in many companies. And it's not that women want to necessarily leave or quietly disengage, but it's because our bodies are changing and the workplaces have not yet caught up with it. So this is happening everywhere today, in offices, on board ships, and across industries. If we ignore this phase, we risk losing talent, experience, wisdom, may I say, and leadership potential at stake. Before we move on, I just want to sort of recap a little bit on what is, or talk a little bit about what is menopause. Menopause is more than just one day after 12 months of consecutively not having had the period. It's a transition phase which can happen for some women in early 40s, for some women even earlier. And it matters where we are from, what culture, what socioeconomic environment we grow up in. For example, in India, menopausal women tend to experience it some years earlier than the average of 51 in Europe and the Western world. So perimenopause is the phase leading up to the actual menopause, and perimenopause on average would last for 3 to 5 years. For some women it lasts a lot longer. For me it was 7 years. And it happened to me whilst I was also going through separation, divorce, and I had 3 young children. So we know that stress exacerbates symptoms. So that's why it's so important to look at ways that we can sustain this period and find ways of living with less stress, being aware of what's happening in our bodies, etc., both as colleagues and for ourselves. So post-menopause is then the whole stage after the one day where we didn't have our period for 12 consecutive months. We may be in post-menopause for a third of our lives. If menopause on average is 50 or younger, and we live until 80 plus, hopefully, we are a long time in post-menopause. And the reason why it's important to think about how we enter into perimenopause, how we look after ourselves, is because 3 factors may impact the way we entered into early menopause, for example. That can happen to many women. And that is osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, and dementia. There's more and more research around these 3 items. So how we enter into perimenopause is really important for how we experience our postmenopause. In some countries, they call postmenopause our second spring. So I don't want to, it's not to talk negatively about menopause, it's an opportunity for us to have this, to experience it differently. When we talk about what menopause is, this is a list of some of the symptoms that women experience. I have in pink highlighted the ones that are reported to impact women in the workplace the most. So often the psychological symptoms are the most impactful ones. Some of those being anxiety, mood changes, depression, sleep disturbances. There's a lot of things happening at the same time potentially, and not everyone has all these by all means, and not one woman experiences this the same. It can fluctuate, and because of I'm not going to go too much into the hormonal levels, what happens, but basically estrogen, progesterone and testosterone are our main hormones that start fluctuating in perimenopause. One thing I didn't write here, which is really, really relevant also for this audience and the younger women here, is how menstruation can start really be erratic in perimenopause. We can have heavier bleeding and bleed more frequently or less. And if you're a woman at sea, I've talked to a few of the students outside today who think this is a really important topic, and important that superiors and the rest of us have empathy and understanding for what we are going through and what we need, not least. 1 in 3 women experience debilitating menopause symptom. 1 in 3 have some symptoms and the rest may sail through it. But it's really important then, isn't it, that we are there for those 1 in 3 who really struggle through this phase. The Fawcett study in the UK from 2022 and later on similar studies show very similar figures, that 1 in 10 women have left their job due to menopause. And it's not necessarily because they chose to or wanted to, and also often they may not even be aware that they are in perimenopause, menopause. There's a lot of women, myself included at the time, I didn't know what perimenopause was. It's quite a sort of a recent phase that's come up in the last few years, and it's more talked about now than it used to be. But when we don't know, and we may go to endless of doctor's visits because we just didn't tie the knots together. 1 in 6, the latest research shows, consider leaving their jobs from the Fawcett study. So this is a UK-based study. There is a study lacking, but more and more coming. In India alone, this is staggering, more than 150 million women will be in menopause by 2026. So when support is missing, everyone pays, right? So the total cost worldwide is billions of lost money due to both disengagement, sick abstinence in some countries, and losing women. So replacing a woman is a lot more costly than actually supporting her through this phase. This is a picture that we may have seen too many times in our industry. I used to organize conferences for trade winds. This is from Shanghai in 2009. There's 1 woman on the panel, and I know that this room is very different today, but sadly we do still see too often women leaving their careers at the top of their career, so maybe in their 40s and beyond. We do want, I know we all agree on this, we want plurality of thought, we want women in the room at every age, and so also a quote here by Annegry Reitan-Ringen, who works with security in the maritime industry. So it's more than a soft value, this. It actually impacts every office, every company. So, is this your responsibility then? Well, I believe strongly that it is. And like mentioned earlier, we have Mental Health Awareness Days, we have International Women's Days, we have all these different initiatives. So yes, it is our responsibility. if we want to be a leading company. And when we think about the government seeing this as a business issue, can we afford not to? Because this is the case worldwide more and more. So in UK, the legislation will be from 2027 that companies with more than 250 employees will need to report support initiatives as part of the gender pay gap reporting. There's several ISO standards incoming, BSI standards talk about this as well. There's big momentum in Europe at the moment for implementing awareness and initiatives around menopause in the workplace. In India this month, there was an announcement that, I can't remember the area of India now, I'm sorry, but that there will be implemented a 1 day per month menstruation leave, which is really, really good. It's a really good start. We need more than that, but it's a fantastic beginning and shows that all over the world this conversation is gaining more and more momentum. In Norway, where I'm from originally, Grieg Foundation are investing heavily in a research project with Bergen University called the CLAR project, and they will do a similar study to the Fawcett in the UK, where they'll be looking at menopause and the impact in the workplace. So what can you as an employer or a colleague do as a leader? The first step, because we will all be at different places around this, but the first step is to opening up the conversation. This month of October, actually happens to be World Menopause Awareness Month, so it's a great opportunity to be here to talk about this today. So it is about opening up the conversation, starting the conversation through awareness work, through webinars, etc., etc. Most of all, it's about building psychologically safe spaces, both for male leaders, for women themselves, etc., so that the woman can show up to work and not be worried about her menopause journey, and equally also with menstruation, that we shouldn't have to worry about not having the right products or be ashamed or feeling the shame and stigma. The main thing, I believe, is that we don't leave the women hanging there. So we don't just have the awareness work and then we leave it from there, but that we show that we really have meaningful initiatives in place, and that's so the younger generation coming after us know that this is a company that leads and really take care of the women within the company. Some of the menopause-friendly organizations here, so what they report is that they see really positive impacts on retention, on well-being amongst women, and also actually ripple effects to other potentially difficult conversations in the workplace. So this conversation, by opening this, also will open other stigmatized conversation within the organization. Things like menopause awareness days, they may have cafes, menopause cafes, online meetings where women can come together in small groups and share, because not everyone feels comfortable talking in the bigger groups about this, so it's nice to have these small nurturing spaces as well. So I've put a QR code in here if any of you would like to have a conversation to see how your company could start this conversation. So feel free to connect with me here or take a picture of this. This is a staggering figure that's come out from McKinsey's Health Institute 2024. And a huge opportunity. So much exciting stuff happening in this space. And yeah, let's make sure that we don't see any more of those Shanghai photos in the future. So I thank you so much for having me here today and look forward to speaking to some of you afterwards. Thank you. Oh, one thing actually, sorry. I still have probably a few seconds. So tomorrow I am hosting a workshop for women going through menopause, perimenopause. And you can register. We still have a few places left, so that would be really nice to see some of you there. Thank you. Bye.